Hello, everyone. Let's get ourselves started. Okay, so let's start with this. So it's 3. I guess if we'll wait for some time to see if anyone joins us, and then I will just get myself started. So this is actually the very first time that I'm doing a live, so I apologize in advance if there is anything technically that does not work properly. I keep improving this. It's the very first time that I'm doing it. It's going to be fun. And yeah, I mean, if there is anything I will need to improve, I will do so. It would be interesting to know if you hear me well. Let's see, let me check. Okay, it sounds good. I guess we can wait for a few minutes. And so, as a general introduction, the reason why I started organizing this, the reason why I organized this is that the whole Terraform and OpenTerraform, OpenTF debate, it's been going on for a while now, and it's a pretty tricky topic, especially for anyone that is like SIGAP, directly impacted with this, meaning that. So in our specific case, let me do just a very, quick introduction. So in our specific case, we use Terraform within our products. So SIGAP, we are a cloud native company. Hello, everyone. Hello, Anton. Hello, Marco. Hello, Samu. Hello, Nicola. So I have like a few seconds of delay. I hope it's fine. And I hope that you hear me well. So just let me know if the audio is decent enough. For now, this is the best I can do. So there's not much I can improve. I don't have any special microphone or special setup. I hope that the echo is good. Hello, Christian. Hello. Not sure who is Berot, but probably it's Bernard. So hello, Bernard. So quite some people are joining. That's great. So what I was saying is that, this whole thing about Terraform, it's been impact. I mean, it has an impact on many realities, on many companies like SIGAP. And so I just wanted to take some time to dive a little bit deeper into that. And, leaving all the bullshit and leaving all the, hello, Nicola, and leaving all the, the discussions and personal opinions aside, there are some facts, meaning that BSL, so the business source or whatever we will see now, license, it's there, and I want to understand what are the impacts. That's fine, Bernard. It's great to have you following this, and the same, the same impact with this whole licensing change. It's true for SIGAP, but it's also true for many other people and many other projects. So I just wanted to take some time to understand it better, to learn more about it. And, and so I was just like, yeah, I mean, why not doing it in public? It would be, I think it's great. It's Friday afternoon, and I think we all had like busy weeks. So taking some time, a couple of hours, while we are doing other stuff, having me in the background talking. I mean, there are better things, but it's interesting, and I think it's a great way to learn all together. So this is why I kind of organize this, and I hope that it's going to be interesting. I plan to do more. This is not going to be too technical, so I will not be sharing any code or whatever. It's not the point. But in the future, I plan to do that as well. So maybe we can wait a few more minutes. Let me just start sharing my desktop. Hopefully, I think I know how to do it. All right. Like this. Do you see it okay? I guess you do. I hope you do. All right. So Thank you, Marco. This is actually, the t-shirt is coming actually from the Computer History Museum in San Francisco. It was really nice. It's great if you happen to go to San Francisco, visit the Computer History Museum. It's a great place. I mean, there are like unique pieces that you can see from the computing history. So I've been there once, totally recommend it. All right, so I'll just start, if everyone is okay. We will just start softly. So as I was saying, let's start giving a little bit of context, okay? And why this is an important discussion for us specifically as SIGAP. But SIGAP is just an example. There are like a ton of other companies out there that somehow. So there are two ways of using Terraform, in my opinion. One way, internal usage. So you are an end user, you use Terraform to pilot your own infrastructure. And in that case, honestly, I don't see a problem. I don't think that this is the target that HashiCorp has. So they don't want to go behind or to impact the usage of Terraform end users, okay? Then there is some kind of middle ground of many companies which leverage Terraform in some way or another. And this is, and this is where the impact might exist. Then there is, of course, a third category, which is the main target of HashiCorp, I believe, which are that competitors. So if you're using Terraform to provide an alternative to Terraform Cloud, you're basically screwed. So you can't do that anymore. So this is my understanding of the current main change. But, it's just my understanding. So I just want to take some time, get into the documents, read together what HashiCorp has been publishing, what OpenTerraform has been publishing, and get myself an idea, and maybe share that with all of you. So in the specific, I want to make an example out of the green area where we need to understand and why OpenTerraform is particularly relevant for SIGAP. Let's start, as an example. How do we use it? I think that this is quite important. So this is, for example, the distribution, right? Our flagship product. Do you see my video? I think you do. So if you go into any of our installers, so how we provision infrastructure within the distribution, like the EKS installer, for example, you will see that within our own installers, it's all Terraform. Okay, so you see, we use Terraform to provision everything, right? And so, what can we still do that? We obviously, so distribution is open source, but we make a profit out of it. And while distribution is open source, it's still a SIGAP project. Can we still do that? So this is like the main question I want to end up answering, right? And this is what I want to investigate a little bit. Of course, sorry, before we start, just to give you an idea, this is so my target duration for this video is probably about 2 hours. It's going to be mainly like discussion. So if there is anything that you want to share, or if there is anything that you want to add, please just write it into the comments. It's going to be great, to read what you think. So I think that there is no better way to start this learning in public session than to just start with with the article. Let's read together the article from HashiCorp. Let's see. Right. Okay. So you should see that. So this was the original announcement, August 10th, from HashiCorp, where they were just announcing that they were adopting business source license. Let's read it together. Let's wrap our heads around it, and I'll tell you what I think. And again, it could be. Can you zoom a little bit? The resolution is not very well. Yes, of course, I can do that. Is it better now? I have a few seconds, like 30 seconds of delay again. So from when you write to when I act, it takes some time. I think it's better now. Okay, great. Okay, so first of all, business source license. It's not something that they invented. It's something well known into the industry. I believe that the first one writing the license itself was MariaDB. And of course, the reason why they are doing this is probably because they need to protect, themselves from competitive products, leveraging their own technology to provide competitive services. So I guess this is pretty straightforward, right? And this is specifically, I think, very relevant when it comes into the self-serving or SaaS offerings. So if you have a Terraform as a service, Terraform Cloud, or Vault as a service, Vault Cloud, whatever, thing, it's a direct. I do understand that this is direct competition to HashiCorp, and we need to keep in mind that HashiCorp right now is listed. It's a public company, so they are actually on the market. And being on the market, okay, it has consequences, I believe, and it has a big impact. So, we can talk all the open source, all the philosophical questions that, as much as we want. But the real reason is that the real reasons, I think, that they lie into markets and how to protect shareholders' value. Plus, let me share with you a little bit, because this is something I'm very interested into, public markets and so on, how HashiCorp has been behaving on the markets recently, over the past year, and it's been a disaster. So stocks, HashiCorp, let's see that. All right. So since IPO, let's see. So they went from post-IPO $90 per share to the current 29. So that's been a minus 70% for the shareholders, right? And so of course it's not all about HashiCorp. Of course it's not them delivering bad results per se. It's been a market situation. Everything has been down big time. So it's not just HashiCorp. All the startups, Confluent, GitLab, whatever you name it, they all have been destroyed over the past year and a half, 2 years. And I think that this is something that we need to keep in mind, because this impacts everything, right? This is again, they have HashiCorp, like every public company, they have only one goal, which is not delivering great projects. It is maximizing this number. Okay, it's sad. It's just the way it is, and so we need to keep that in mind. And I think that this whole business source license thing, it's that consequence of them protecting their share value. Okay, not sure if you were aware of that. I think that it's something worth mentioning. All right, so let's dive into the announcement that they did. First of all, the article has been signed by Armon. That's great. It's the CTO. I believe he is still CTO of HashiCorp. While Mitchell has been stepping down, he has been the main business reference for the company over the past couple of years. So it's great that it's from him, meaning it means that HashiCorp is taking full ownership of this decision, and that's something I personally like a lot. So and he has been writing, when Mitchell and I founded HashiCorp, we made the decision to make our products open source because of a few key beliefs, and that's great. So we believe strongly in freely available source code to make it easy for practitioners to freely download, inspect source code, and solve their own problems. That's fair. That's one of the key values of open source, right? That's great. Between the lines, of course, there is the fact that open source is a very strong, powerful, marketing powerhouse. So it makes it easy to adopt a technology. And that's been one of the key advantages that Terraform and the whole ecosystem from HashiCorp has been leveraging a lot. So we believe in building an ecosystem and community around our products to enable broader integrations. That's great, especially for Terraform. Of course, this is like a key thing, right? They have a ton of models, ton of community maintained or vendor maintained integrations. they enabled API first consuming of infrastructure. So that's, they've been part of the revolution over the past 10 years. So I recognize that they had a big impact and a big role into this. And so we believe also in the importance of transparency for our users. That's great. For more than a decade, we have continued to build new products and features provided to the community under a free open source license. This has led to a large community of users, contributors, partners, and customers who participate in and benefit from the work of the HashiCorp products. So it is true, everything that he has been saying. I think that we need to acknowledge also the benefit that HashiCorp had from such large community. I mean, HashiCorp has been a big success thanks to the contribution of a huge number of people, right? So I think that this is something that we need and they need to acknowledge and put as a very first item into the list. There is nothing second to this, because HashiCorp by itself, I mean, Terraform by itself, with sole HashiCorp contributions, I'm not sure where it would have been now, right? Without all the integrations, without all the... So we need to acknowledge that, and this is why this whole thing, it's not very nice in general, okay? It leaves you with a little bit of a bittersweet thing, but anyway, let's go on. Our open source model has been made possible by thousands of commercial customers who partner with us on their mission critical infrastructure. We invest tens of millions of dollars in research and development in our open source products annually. That's fair. I mean, they are like investing literally tens of millions, probably even hundreds of millions, okay, per year. And our commercial efforts enable us to continue to support, sponsor our vibrant community of users. Okay. Whatever. Our approach has enabled us to partner closely with the cloud providers to enable tight integration for our joint users and customers, as well as hundreds of the technology partners we work closely with, okay? However, and this is where it gets interesting, there are other vendors who take advantage of pure open source models and the community work on open source projects for their own commercial goals without providing material contributions back. We don't believe this is in the spirit of open source, right? So I think that here we are highlighting a fundamental flaw into the HashiCorp approach so far. This is nothing new. It's something, that we have seen tens of times in the past. It has been happening a lot, many other times. Elastic, just to mention one, right? And this is the same movie playing again. I mean, you have been leveraging the open source community up until now. You have been leveraging all the contributions up until now. And then you don't want to play the open source game. So again, I do perfectly understand why they are doing this. And I do perfectly understand that they are trying to protect their shareholders. But, I mean, saying that you believe in open source and then at the same time not wanting your, an ecosystem of competitors based on the technology that you are developing or contributing, I don't think it's fine. I honestly don't think it's fine. So either you recognize that you don't want to play the open source game, so you're making your source code, so open source and source code availability, these are two different things, right? So you make your source code available, that's fine, that's great, but if you are the only one having ownership and being able to contribute to it, that's not real open source. That's like, it's source available, it's a source available strategy, it's a different thing. So we would need to recognize that. We would need to, I think that they would need to kind of highlight this and just clearly state that, this is not a game they want to play anymore. We don't believe this is in the spirit of open source. Okay. As a result, we believe commercial open source models need to evolve for the ecosystem to continue providing open, freely available software. Open source has reduced the barrier to copying innovation and selling it through existing distribution channels. Okay. Many vendors have shifted increasingly to closed source for this reason. However, we did not feel that that would preserve our original goals in adopting open source. Okay. I mean, again, yes. So they're saying we don't want to go closed source. Obviously, that would be like the end of HashiCorp probably. But at the same time, you know, they are not fully playing the game. So what they are doing, so, you know, given all this, you know, introduction, what are they doing about it? So that is why today we are announcing that HashiCorp is changing its source code license from Mozilla Public License v2, okay, MPL 2.0, to the Business Source License, BSL, also known as BUSL v1.1, on all the future releases of HashiCorp products. So HashiCorp APIs, SDKs, and almost all other libraries will remain MPL 2.0. Okay, so this is the very first thing that I, you know, want to investigate a little bit. So they're saying all our products, they are going to shift to BSL, so Business Source License, okay? And we will see what this means. You know, let me open this one. Let's see. All right, so this is the actual license, which I want to read later. But at the same time, they are saying that, you know, all the APIs, SDKs, and all the libraries, and I honestly don't know in the context of Terraform, you know, what they mean with library. So that would be interesting. I guess that all the modules that they provided will remain MPL. I think that this is going to be pretty important. So everything else is going to remain MPL, which is nice. It's great to know. Let's read on. BSL 1.1 is a source available license that allows copy, modification, redistribution, non-commercial use, and commercial use, okay, under specific conditions. So with this change, we are following a path similar to other companies in recent years. These companies include Couchbase, Cockroach Labs, Sentry, MariaDB, which developed the license in 2013, and companies including Confluent, MongoDB, Elastic, Redis Labs, and others have also adopted alternative licenses that include restrictions on commercial usage. Again, this is not a new scenario. This is not a new problem, right? They are trying to address a fundamental problem with their, you know, historical. I guess, you know, every company, when it comes to a certain size, and when it comes to, you know, when it stops to play just the, you know, the pure technical game and it gets into the financial game, at some point they need to address this issue, right? And it's a big question, and this is something, you know, I would like to discuss sometime in the future. You know, is open source fundamentally incompatible with large corporations? You know, with large models, business models? I don't know. You know, it seems like from what I've seen, it seems like so. Everyone is, you know, up to a certain size, open source is great, everything is open source, please use our products. And then at some point, oh no, we were joking. You know, you can still use it, but there are some restrictions. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting to discuss. So our implementation of BSL includes additional usage grants that allow for broadly permissive use of our source code. Okay, let me explain a little bit this sentence, because I think it's bigger than what it seems, okay? So with the business source license, you are actually, by default, you are actually not authorized to use the source code in production. So BSL explicitly forbids, you know, anyone adopting the software to actually run it in production. This is not great. And, you know, it would be a fundamental problem to adopt any product from HashiCorp, you know? And so the way they have solved this problem is that they introduced these additional usage grants, which in legal terms, it means that they are providing, you know, something on top of the standard BSL. And so, with additional user grants, they allow broadly permissive use of our source code. So basically, they are telling you as an end user that you can use their products in production. And so this is great, but the fact that they have to explicitly allow someone to use it in production, it's a broken premise. And I just wonder if this is going to change again in the future. This is where, this is the biggest challenge, I think, that anyone, this is the biggest fundamental question that anyone adopting HashiCorp products will need to ask himself, herself, what if this change? Because what they are actually doing is shifting again, let me highlight it, the focus from users to paying customers, to shareholders, to a public listed logics company. And so I think that this is, from a personal standpoint, this is my biggest issue. And I mean, yeah. So we believe this will offer a fair and sustainable way for HashiCorp to share its source code widely for free use. We consulted with open source software licensing experts and other industry stakeholders when developing our license, so that our efforts would be in line with industry practices. Okay, well, this is what they think. So our first goal with this change is to minimize the impact to our community, partners, and customers. We will continue to publish source code and updates for HashiCorp products to our GitHub repository and distribution channel. So from a channel and publication and the way they're going to work, nothing will change. And that's great to know. And users can continue to copy, modify, and distribute the code for all non-commercial and commercial use. Okay, this is a very important point. So they allow also commercial use, except where providing a competitive offering to HashiCorp. Okay, so getting back, into my role as the founder of SIGAP. So, I mean, are we competing with HashiCorp? I don't think we are. Obviously, I don't think we are. We do something different. We have a different focus. We don't want to compete in anything, We are not as vertical as HashiCorp is, or at least we are in a different area. But still, through a configuration file, you can set up infrastructure. That's what our distribution does. Can that be seen as a competing offer to what HashiCorp does? That's a big question, right? So partners can continue to build integrations for our joint customers, of course. We will continue to work closely with the cloud services providers to ensure deep support for our mutual technologies. Again, of course, they don't want to break what works into their current model, right? Customers of enterprise and cloud-managed HashiCorp products will see no change as well. And of course, customers and enterprise users, they are not impacted by this. For them, really nothing changes. Vendors who provide competitive services built on our community products will no longer be able to incorporate future releases, bug fixes, or security patches contributed to our products. So this is their main target. Anyone providing, a service competing with their current main products will be able to use their code. And again, I don't blame them, but I feel like this is, again, it's not the open source game. It's something different. Our commitment to our community, partners, and customers has not changed. And I honestly think that this is something, again, worth mentioning. HashiCorp has never been a big community player, at least in my, having seen them over the past 10 years growing. They are barely present into large communities. They have their own community. So there is the HashiCorp community that you can participate to, be part of, but they are not part of a broader ecosystem, you know? And I think that this is perfectly fine and perfectly fair, but it's important to highlight this. So, you know, again, they are building their own walled garden, basically. That's something that's how I, you know, probably it's a biased point of view, but this is how I've seen them over time. I've never seen them as big contributors into the CNCF, into the Linux Foundation, into, you know, into the Apache Foundation or other large foundation projects, into large community projects. You know, if they are at conferences, they are there with their own booth. That's it. They just, you know, they're very focused on their own projects, which is great, and they had a huge impact. But again, it's a different thing. So it's kind of a different, really walled garden, in my opinion. We understand the trust the community places in us, and we have worked carefully to preserve our original goals in adopting an open approach. We look forward to continuing to invest in the community and our products. We know there will be additional questions, and we have assembled a set of, you know, FAQs to help you better understand the changes. You can also watch this short video below for more information. I don't know. I think we can watch it as we are. Okay, there is no sound. I guess I cannot play the video. I need to work on this. It's just, you know, they are basically summarizing what's written into the article, actually. So there is not much, you know, over the first, I've seen just 30 seconds and a few seconds, before preparing this live. I will just read, you know, listen it through after and see if there is any value into this. But I believe that they are just summarizing and repeating what is written into the original article. What, you know, I think it's very interesting to. So basically, this article, it's pretty straightforward. They're just announcing their shift, they're announcing their whys, and yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say, I guess. What I saw that they did after this original article on August 10th, they also published sort of a deep dive with some FAQs later during the month of August. And so this is what, you know, I want to reiterate now. There we are. So August 21st, they published this new article called HashiCorp Updates Licensing FAQ based on community questions. And, you know, let's read it through. So HashiCorp recently announced that we have adopted business source license, V11, for all future releases of HashiCorp products. HashiCorp team members have been answering questions about the licensing change in a thread on our Discuss forum. Let's see what's there. And via our licensing@hashicorp.com email. So in the case of SIGAP, for example, you know, what I should have done is probably email them and get their explicit, you know, approval for the way we are using Terraform specifically, because we are talking about Terraform, you know. I haven't done that. It's, you know, for us, it's a huge risk, because if they do not allow the way, you know, if for whatever reason, the person behind this email is a legal person, which probably is, I'm not sure they will understand the difference between what we do and what they do. And, you know, if they do have a safe approach, they might just deny any, you know, they might just say, you need to pay us, which would nuke the company. And that's not what we want, right? That's not just sustainable for us. And I think that there are probably hundreds, thousands of companies in the same situation as SIGAP, you know, and this is probably where you start to see Open Terraform, you know, becoming relevant. There's no other way, and so it's, you know, but we will get there. Let's see what they write here. So today, HashiCorp, maybe we can read it later. Let's finish this. So our goal with the BSL license was to make it short and simple. It means the FAQs plays an important role in providing interpretation guidance to our users. We view this guidance in these FAQs as binding. So they actually take what they write, you know, as a binding to their own users. So users of our software should feel assured in relying on them as our official positions now and in future. We have added additional questions and answers to the FAQs since August 10th based on common questions we have received. We wanted to share the most relevant updates for our community to ensure there is clarity on the changes and their impacts. Okay, let's start reading these FAQs. Okay, first question. Internal use of HashiCorp products. One of the most common questions we have been from users in the community asking if they can continue to use products for internal purposes. And okay, we can read it. The answer is yes. And I had very little doubt about it. It would be absolutely, you know, nonsense for them to impact the end users, whoever is using whatever the projects, you know, internally. These are their customers. They are their target customers. So I'm not surprised. And we have, so, and they go on. And we have added a specific FAQ item to explicitly answer this. BSL license imposes no restrictions on internal use of our tooling, which is not true, because BSL by default is not allowing production use of software. So I want to see what they write after. For example, running HashiCorp Terraform in a CI/CD tool for provisioning internal infrastructure, or hosting an HashiCorp Vault instance for your internal organization is permitted. Okay. And I guess, you know, this is the big problem with all this legal stuff. You don't even know what they mean with production usage, right? So production usage is anything, to me, that runs production workloads, but that might not be the case for what they mean with that. So, but anyway, so can you keep using HashiCorp products, Terraform, Vault, whatever, within your own internal tools? Yes, you can. And that's not a problem. That has been never questioned, you know, so that's not even something we should talk about. So question, can I host the HashiCorp products as a service internal to my organization? Okay, this is a more interesting question. So what if I'm a platform team providing HashiCorp products as a service internally within the organization? So my business model is not selling HashiCorp as a service, but that's my job. That's what I do internally. Am I allowed to do that? And so they answer, that's very interesting. And they answer, yes, you can. The terms of BSL allow for all non-production and production usage, except for providing competitive offerings to third parties that embed or host our software. Hosting the products for your internal use of your organization is permitted. HashiCorp considers an organization as including all of its affiliates. Okay, so they're basically saying, yes, you can do that without problems and without limitations. And if you have multiple companies within your companies or multiple groups within your companies, you can still do that. Defining competitive offerings. Another common area of questions has been what HashiCorp considers a competitive offering. That's a fair question. That's my own main question. And how that definition might change based on future HashiCorp products. Okay, so the BSL license was designed to be broadly permissive to allow the vast majority of community use cases. The narrow restriction is on using HashiCorp product to compete directly with its corresponding commercial offerings. I'm confused. I mean, it should be pretty straightforward, but again, in the case of SIGAP, I'm not sure. Our updated FAQs make this clear by permitting cross-competition using Vault to compete with Terraform and grandfathering any future competition. Let's read on. Again, I'm confused. So, question. What is a competitive offering under the HashiCorp BSL license? Answer that HashiCorp is providing. A competitive offering is a product that is sold to third parties, including through paid support arrangements that significantly overlaps the capabilities of a HashiCorp commercial product. For example, this definition would include hosting or embedding Terraform as part of a solution that is sold competitively against our commercial versions of Terraform. You know, I'm posing because, again, I don't know. I mean, we're not competing with Terraform. Who care about, I mean, Terraform is part of our stack, and we love it as a project. We kind of do some things that are overlapping, but that's, I mean, it's a completely different thing, right? Are we considered competitive offering? I don't know. By contrast, products that are not sold or supported on a paid basis, by the way, supported on a paid basis is what SIGAP is doing, are always allowed under the HashiCorp BSL license because they are not considered competitive. Unfortunately, this whole answer for our specific case, you know, in case of SIGAP and many others like us, they are not answering. And so what they say is, if you need further clarification with respect to a specific particular use case, you can email licensing@hashcorp.com. You know, custom licensing terms are also available to provide more clarity and enable use cases beyond the BSL limitations. So they're basically telling us, you know, that we should write them. Just write our, you know, our legal team, and we will get back to you. And we can also provide specific, you know, BSL sort of flavors. I personally don't like it, but that's just the way it is. Let's read on. What does the term embedded mean under the HashiCorp BSL license? So under the HashiCorp BSL license, the term embedded means including the source code or object code, including executables, binaries. And by the way, we as SIGAP do everything. I mean, we include the binaries, we include Terraform as a technology, as a library, sort of. So yeah, it's problematic. From an HashiCorp product in a competitive product. Okay. Embedded also means packaging the competitive product in such a way that the HashiCorp product must be accessed or downloaded for the competitive product to operate. Okay, this is like more specific terms, more specific wording. Let's go on a little bit faster. So if I want to build a product that is competitive with HashiCorp, does that mean that I'm now prevented from using any HashiCorp tools under the BSL license? I guess yes, that's the whole point. No, that's great. The BSL license does not prevent developers from using our tools to build competing products. Okay. So the actual question is, can I still use HashiCorp products if I want to build something that is competing without embedding it? So if I want to build an alternative to Terraform, I want to use Terraform myself, can I do that? Yes. Okay. They're saying yes, you can do it. So, for example, if someone built a product competitive with Vault, it would be permissible to deploy that product with Terraform. Okay. Similarly, so you see, you know, the level of legal perversion that we are getting into, you know, but that's just the job. I mean, that's what legal people do. That's what they do 100% of the time, you know, but it's just such a waste of time, such a waste of energy and so on. Anyway, similarly, if someone built a competitive product to Terraform, they could use Vault to secure it. What the BSL license would not allow is hosting or embedding Terraform in order to compete with Terraform, or hosting or embedding Vault to compete with Vault. It's fair. I mean, what am I supposed to say? It's fair. Again, it's not open source. It's source code available, but it's fair. It's, you know, at least they are clearing out what are their expectations. What if HashiCorp releases a new product or feature in the future that makes my product competitive? This is a big question. So if HashiCorp creates an offering in the future that is competitive with the product you are already offering in production, your continued use of the hosted or embedded HashiCorp product will not be considered a violation of the HashiCorp BSL license. Nice. I would say nice. So if for whatever reason tomorrow HashiCorp release a Kubernetes distribution, we would still be able to use Terraform within Fury, within our distribution if we wanted to. And that's very relevant. And it's, you know, it's great that they are explicitly saying this now in this document. Let's read on. Open source and the BSL license. So HashiCorp adopted the BSL for only our core products. HashiCorp SDKs, APIs, Terraform providers, and almost all other libraries across the HashiCorp portfolio will remain licensed under MPL 2.0. There are a few libraries, such as Bolt Shamir, that were, you know, by mistake relicensed because of the monorepo approach, but we have since explicitly licensed those back to MPL. We thank the community members for bringing this to our attention. The BSL license is also compatible with most of other licenses, and with the exception of certain copyleft licenses such as GPL, does not prevent using HashiCorp products as part of other open source projects. Okay, this is a debatable, I think, statement. I would not embed or use, you know, anything that is not open source, like with the proper open source license, within a new open source project. I would not do that, honestly. Why? Because you don't know how that's going to change. You don't know if you are going to have troubles. I just saw the question from Nicola. Have you already written to HashiCorp by email to ask clarification regarding SIGAP use of Terraform? No, I haven't, Nicola. Not yet. Not yet, but I have to. And I will do so, and I will update everyone, you know, regarding to their answer. That's going to be interesting. I will speak a little bit, you know, later about SIGAP and the way we use Terraform, you know, and what's our plan B. So what's our actual plan, you know? But again, I will definitely email them, and I will definitely get to understand exactly, you know, what are the consequences for us to keep using Terraform. I would not want to change Terraform within Fury, within Kubernetes Fury distribution, our product, because I like HashiCorp, I like Terraform, and I like, you know, I've been a fanboy of the work that they did over the last few years. So I would not want to change that. I do recognize that, you know, this move highlights a fundamental problem for us, and that's, you know, that's something we have been knowing. I mean, we knew that this could happen. It's, you know, and that's why I'm a little bit baffled, you know, in general. I'm not happy. So, but anyway, I will write them, understand if, you know, what are our options, get exactly their perspective, and see what, you know, what we would, and then we will just plan accordingly and see what we have to do. Okay, let's keep on questions. So next question: Can I mix BSL license code with code provided under different license in my project? Yes, and that's connected to, you know, what they just wrote in the question above. So the answer to this is yes, provided that each of the components keep their own license and you do not mix the BSL with strong copyleft license code, such as GPL. With respect to some permissive licenses like Apache, you may also provide the whole program under BSL, but include a notice for the Apache portion. This is possible because Apache, unlike other open source licenses, grants the right to sublicense. Okay, I don't know. I don't have any strong opinion on this. Next question. I am the author of an open source project that uses Archicorp technology in a non-competitive way. Example, uses Terraform, but not in a production environment. If someone else uses my project to produce a competitive product or hosted service, am I at risk of being considered competitive and violating the BSL license? Do I need to track all users of my project and report suspected infringing use? You see that there are so many corner cases. There are so many different situations. You know, it's just mind-blowing. So let's see what HashiCorp answers to this. Only those who are actively embedding or hosting the HashiCorp products in a competitive manner would be in violation of the license. The violation would not extend to a project owner who is not doing so, and the project owner would have no obligation to monitor or report how others are using their project. So what they're basically saying is that, I mean, you can use and embed all the Terraform, Vault, whatever other product in our project within your own project. You will not be liable for the way your own project is going to be used, but your users are going to be liable. And I mean, this is perfectly normal. I mean, it's something I would have expected, but again, introducing this kind of level of complexity on end users, which are most of the times not large, super large corporations. I mean, these are customers. They just buy whatever license, right? It's just not right. So, you know, end users, they should not be too worried about this kind of stuff, in my opinion. Let's read on. Consulting and professional services. Lastly, we received many questions from consultancies and system integrators asking how the BSL license impacts their ability to provide professional services. In short, the BSL license does not prohibit providing professional services, and we have a large partner ecosystem, very corporate answer, that we work closely with to support our users to deploy, manage, and adopt HashiCorp products. Of course, I mean, it's a very corporate answer. Of course, they don't want to impact the system integrators or the partners, whatever. So, not surprised. Can I continue to provide professional services around HashiCorp products? Yes, we have a large ecosystem of system integrators, partners that provide consulting and professional services to help users, okay? The change to our license is not intended to deter partners from providing those services. Again, I mean, they're just repeating themselves. And we will continue to encourage this and support these types of system integrators partners. Instead, the BSL license simply prevents embedding or hosting our community products in a manner competitive with our commercial products. This is interesting. So it is actually not true, probably, that system integrators and so on are not impacted at all. Meaning that I'm 100% confident that there are so many system integrators selling support. You know, maybe they have their own Atlantis instance and they are providing support. You know, they have their own customers. HashiCorp licensing is too expensive, so they just say, you know, this, you know, just kind of chipping in, saying to the end customer, yeah, don't worry. I mean, we're going to provide you support into the open version. So we are going to provide you with kind of a Terraform Cloud, you know, Terraform Cloud-like service that we will maintain. In this case, they will not be able to do that anymore. And that's, you know, good luck with tracking all these things. To HashiCorp, unfortunately. So I'm a consultant who helps my customers run their infrastructure using HashiCorp tooling. Does HashiCorp consider me a competitor? That's the thing. Let's see. All non-production use of BSL licensed HashiCorp products is permitted. Assisting a customer with their own use of BSL licensed HashiCorp products for that production environment is also permitted. embedding or hosting BSL licensed HashiCorp products in an offering to be made available to multiple customers that is competitive with HashiCorp products is not permitted. Boom, that's it. I mean, that's exactly what I was mentioning. So if you are a system integrator, an HashiCorp partner maybe, and you kind of find yourself competing with HashiCorp themselves with your own projects and products, you are screwed. You can't do that anymore. And if they find you, it's going to be a legal problem. And this is exactly part of this is a big thing, actually. Nobody has been talking about it, but it is actually a big thing. Okay, I guess we read it all. Let's jump very quickly into the discuss forum thread. I'm just curious about it. There we go. And see if there is any other, interesting material here. So today, HashiCorp has announced a transition license from the Mozilla public to the business source for future releases of all products and several libraries. HashiCorp APIs, SDKs, and all other libraries will remain MPL. HashiCorp is committed to continuing to develop our popular community products in the open with broad access to permissions for use. Okay. Again, what I really don't like is that they have this shady gray area. I mean, half, yes, we want to keep being nice and open source and whatever. On the other hand, we are not open source. And yeah, I mean, I'm not. That really smells bad, to me at least. You can find your answers into the FAQ, we just read it, published on the HashiCorp website. If you have a specific questions, just email. Okay. And I guess we will need to do that as a SIGAP. Let's keep reading. We know today's announcement will cause many of you to have questions and any impact you may experience. For us, to better assist everyone, we ask you to limit these threads to questions regarding the change, and please be respectful, Paula. Okay. Details of the repository changes. Wow. Okay, so Terraform, that's the core focus of this discussion. And what is also interesting is that, okay, let's keep reading. So Terraform is impacted, no surprise. Vagrant, Packer, Waypoint, Boundary, Consul, Nomad, all of them, Vault. That's a big change. That's a very, very big change. It's interesting to see that. Just check this. I mean, Terraform had 160 questions, right? I guess these are questions. Yes. And the others, Vagrant, kind of old, not sure. I mean, I still use it, but not sure if it's still a market standard or if it's just me being a boomer. Packer, Waypoint, Boundary, they are kind of niche. Consul, okay, Vault, pretty important. But again, I don't have any big issue with all the other projects because they are products. With Terraform, it's kind of different because it's, I see that more as a library. And, I think it's very unfair that they've been boosting use of Terraform as an industry standard factor. And now they're screwing around, with how you actually use it. That's not fine. I guess this is what I personally don't really like. Okay, let's read a little bit of comments. So this is a sad day for the open source ecosystem. Should we expect changes in futures available in the community via the commercial editions of our softwares? Okay. I'm a maintainer of an open source called TF let me ask about, and then he has some questions. The BSL terms say all copies of the original and modified license work and derivative works of the license work are subject to this license. Also, according to FAQ 14, the modified version cannot be distributed under another license. So I guess this is the question that they used, specifying all the, how you can use HashiCorp products with your open source project. So, makes sense. Does the TF-link rule set powered by OPA violate BSL? I'm considering the possibility that this project will be recognized as a competitor of Sentinel. Let's see if there are replies. Interesting. So thank you for the detailed inquiry. I'm working to get you some answers, and I will follow up with the next steps. Okay, interesting. They actually answered him directly. I want to go directly to this because this is, I think, the most interesting one. After an initial review of the plugin on GitHub, it is not in violation of BSL as it does not appear to host or embed. If the scope of the plugin changes and you have additional questions, please reach out to us. Okay, the very interesting thing is that they actually got back to him, and this is great. One of the big fears that I had is that if you do reach out to them, they might take weeks or months to get back to you. And what do you do in the meantime? I mean, again, it's it's going to be interesting. Okay, so it's been 1 hour. I've been reading, all the HashiCorp side of the story and all the material that HashiCorp has been producing. It's time for us to actually move, Okay, I wanted to move to read on the Open Terraform material. But before doing so, I actually noted myself to actually go and read the business source license. So that's, it's all fun and games, but I want to see this license. What does it actually say? I mean, what's the content of this? Let me paste it here so we have it. Let's read it very quickly. I mean, this is a core thing. So business source license, trademark of MariaDB. Okay, great. Of MariaDB Corporation. So it all started with MariaDB, as I mentioned. It's funny that copyleft, copyright, license, it's trademarked by itself. That's interesting. Okay, so licensor, HashiCorp Inc. License work. The license work is C 2023 HashiCorp Inc. Okay. Additional use grant. You may make production use of license work, provided such use does not include offering the license work to third parties on a hosted or embedded basis, which is competitive with HashiCorp products. As I said, as I was saying before, they had to do this because by default, BSL does not allow production use. Again, they seem to be very focused on the hosted nature of the product that uses their projects and on the embedded nature, which really worries me even more, because while we do not host Terraform or anything like that, we do embed it, kind of embed it. And so that's a big, concerning point. This can be quite boring, but I really want to read it through. Let's read the business source license 1.1. Okay, terms. So the licensor hereby grants you the right to copy, modify, create derivative works, redistribute, and make non-production use of licensed work. As I was saying, non-production allowed, production by default not allowed. The licensor may make an additional use grant above, permitting limited production use. So beyond all the words, beyond all the bullshit, beyond all the legal terms, what they actually write is that they may, it's not that they must, they may make an additional use grant above, permitting limited production use. This is insane. This is what I mean. What is insane is that they, write very long and articulated blog posts. They write many FAQs. and then you go read the actual license, and they actually keep the door open to actually go behind you for just using this stuff in production, because this is what may mean. And this is what, limited me, that they reserve the right to go behind you in any case. And that's just insane. Effective on change date on the 4th anniversary of the first publicly available distribution of a specific version of the license work under this license, whichever comes first, the licensor hereby grants you rights under the terms of the change license, and the rights granted in the paragraph above terminate. Okay, what does it mean? It means that business source license, BSL, is actually a temporary license. That's something I know because I've been studying it in the past, meaning that it's not a definitive license. It's just transitory, meaning that when you release something that is under BSL, you also must define a time frame after which the code is going to become again fully open source. So in the specific case of HashiCorp, I think that what they somewhere define is that after 4 years, this gets back to BNPL. So the new versions of Terraform, they're going to be released under BSL, and then after 4 years, they would go back and be MPL again. That's good to know. If your use of the license work does not comply with the requirements currently in effect as described in this license, you must purchase a commercial license from the licensor, its affiliated entities or authorized resellers, or you must refrain from using license work. So they're basically telling you, if for whatever reason we decide that you are not complying with BSL, you're done. I mean, you have to pay, and or you should not use our projects. And I think that there is nothing more clear than this. That's why whenever in a license you read may or you read limited, these are very specific legal terms, because when and as well, usually legal terms, they are extremely assertive. Okay, they will tell you exactly what you can and what you cannot do. Like this, you must refrain from using licensed work. And so the fact that they are keeping this with may or whatever, limited, it means that essentially, who defines what is production and what is not? Legally speaking, I mean, we don't know. This is sorry, I was reading another question that arrived into the chat. That's a big question. That's a big question, and it's not written anywhere. And that's one of the big things, big holes that there is in this whole debacle, this whole debate. I mean, it's insane that they are not defined. I'm using a lot of my words. I'm Italian, so I'm fine with that. Be fine with that. The fact that they are changing license and not defining exactly what is production, that's a huge red flag in my case. And so it's insane. And also, considering that they are adding an additional use grant so that they permit production use without defining exactly what is production use, they also, permit limited use in production. What does that mean? It means that when they like it, you can use it in production, and when they don't like it, you can't use it. So anyone using the products, if they want to be safe, and that's general rule of thumb, they should all get in touch with HashiCorp, even if you're using it within your projects, because that might change in the future, and you might be liable. These terms, they might change in the future. Terms and conditions, I mean, this license. And nothing, the big red flag, another big red flag is that if HashiCorp, in a year's time, for whatever reasons, business reasons, shareholders, they want more money, or they get acquired by someone. This can be, you cannot just imagine the kind of mess that can be done by companies, when they start to screw around with terms and conditions and licenses and so on. And this is the biggest concern that I personally have in general, not related to SIGAP, not related to our own use of Terraform within our products. Okay, and it's just a mess. You cannot rely on legal teams, which are usually they usually don't have the culture needed into software engineering. Okay, you cannot rely on them to have a coherent way of managing your projects, especially for future evolutions. It's just insane. Anyway, let's keep on reading. All copies of the original and modified license work and derivative works of the license work are subject to this license. So, in the previous FAQ, they were still saying, yeah, I mean, come on, keep using our own stuff within your tools and within your projects. That's no problem. That's not true. That's not true. That's simply not true. Because what they write into the license is that if you use any of the license work, this keeps, this is going to, well, actually, it's the same as I wrote. Okay. So whatever they write within the license, it will keep on, it will be inherited by all the projects using the products, using the HashiCorp products within their stuff. This license applies separately for each version of the license work, and the change date may vary for each version of the license work released by licensor. This license applies separately for each version of the license work, and the change date may vary for each version of the license. Okay, this is, I'm just very confused, and this license applies separately for each version of the license work. So each version of the license work, so each version of their projects. Okay, well, it applies for all the different projects from HashiCorp in a different manner. So the license is the same, but each project has its own license. That makes sense. You must conspicuously display this license on each original or modified copy of the license work. If you receive the license work in original or modified form from third party, the terms and conditions set forth in this license apply to your use of that work. Okay, that's something we already read. Any use of the license work in violation of the license will automatically terminate your rights under the license for the current and all other versions of the license work. What does it mean? So if you use whatever project from HashiCorp in violation of this license, they are basically telling you that they will terminate your rights. I don't know what this means. I don't know what rights you have. And I guess that this is just a way of saying that they will probably come after you from a legal standpoint. This license does not grant you any right on any trademark or logo of licensor or of its affiliates. That expect. To the extent permitted by applicable law, the license work is provided on an as-is basis. Licensor hereby disclaims all warranties and conditions, express or implied, including without limitations, warranties of merchantability, fitness for a particular purpose, non-infringement, and type. I mean, everyone, if you are still following the live, I do understand that this stuff, it's heavy, it's boring, but it's super important because this is where the real content is. Everything else is just a comment. This is the real content, okay? Let me say just one thing. This is not open source, by far. So the whole open source and all the Mozilla, all the Apache, all the GPLs, all the MIT, all the open licenses that are available, they have huge work behind them. They've been evolving for years and years and years, and they are what they are for very specific reasons. Let me say, all the content of the open licenses they've been crafted over the years to ensure open governance on projects. That's open source. This is not open source. And so, one thing I wish, honestly, is that we would really start to make a clear division between open source projects and source code available projects. This is a source code available kind of license. We give you the source code. The source code is ours. You may use it, but you may not use it. We reserve the right to cause you troubles. Up to you to comply. That's not open source. Okay, I want to highlight this, and this is kind of important. I mean, this is, I guess, the main concern, the main thing that we should all focus on. And to this regard, I guess it's time to move on to the OpenTF thing, right? Because the whole, sorry, that's part of my notes. So getting back a little bit, after HashiCorp has been announcing this whole licensing change with the business license, business source license announced, and so on, let me say that this was a very divisive moment for the Terraform and HashiCorp community in general. Many people have seen, you either had a very purist approach saying, oh, this is not open source, whatever, and so some people just kind of took it personal, or they recognized that this was a big thing with a potentially big impact on their own business, right? And so they were just saying, it was a very polarized community it has been a very polarized community over the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. And so the consequence of this is that a few companies, Grantwork most notably, but others as well, I don't have the full names, we can look them up. They basically said, we do not accept this. HashiCorp, you can't do that. You are going against your own principles. Again, this is not open source. We believe that, especially Terraform, is so critical in the community that it deserves a different place. It deserves an open governance project. It cannot just be your own intellectual property and you allow something and you do not allow other stuff. That's not acceptable. So this is why we are, we give you a few days to think about it. And then if we do not get what we want, we are just going to fork the project and maintain our own version of Terraform. So whoever comes, whoever is deep into the Linux Foundation, into open source communities, whoever has been, living with CNCF Cloud Native Computing Foundation rules, it just makes sense. This is like, this is something that had to be expected. And it's something I actually agree a lot with. And we will dive a little bit into this manifesto, into their own announcement. But again, there are some big buts big issues into this approach. And I want to highlight them. It's going to be interesting. So where do we want to start? Let's start with the manifesto, and let's see this manifesto, what they write, and then I would just read very briefly, very quickly their announcement. And then we can, I will give you my 2 cents into what is going on. So Terraform was open sourced in 2014 under the Mozilla public license v2. Over the next 9 years, it built a community that included thousands of users, contributors, customers, certified practitioners, vendors, and an ecosystem of open source models, plugins, libraries, and extensions. Then, on August 10th, 2023, with little or no advance notice or chance for much, if not all of the community to have any input, HashiCorp switched the license for Terraform from MPL to BSL, V11, a non-open source license. And that is true. I mean, this is just true. It's a fact. There is nothing, there are no opinions in this. In our opinion, this change threatens the entire community and the ecosystem that's built up around Terraform over the last 10 years. Okay, fair enough. Our concern, the BUSL, so business source license, is a poison pill for Terraform. Let's read this through. Overnight, tens of thousands of businesses, ranging from one-person shops to Fortune 500, woke up to a new reality, where the underpinnings of their infrastructure suddenly became a potential legal risk. And this is exactly my own concern. Okay, they are voicing something that is a reality for us as a company, for me as a contributor, for me as a member of the community. They're just voicing my own thoughts. That's what I just said. The BSL and the additional use grant written by HashiCorp team are vague. Is this how you pronounce it? I hope so. Vogue, whatever. Now, every company vendor and developer using Terraform, they're not clear. So now every company vendor and developer using Terraform has to wonder whether they are doing, could be constructed as a competitive with HashiCorp offerings. This is exactly my own concern. This is the very first time I'm reading this manifest, okay? I haven't read it before. And so, I'm just very, very happy to read this because this is exactly my own line of thought. It's just, it's not just me. I'm not crazy. Yay, that's great. The FAQ provides some solace for end users and system integrators today, but even if you might be in the clear now, again, yeah, that's the point. How can you build confidence that your usage won't violate the license terms in future? Again, it can change. That's one of the main problems. What if your products or HashiCorp products change? What if HashiCorp changes how they interpret the competitive world? What if they change the license again? And as a result, everything that uses Terraform is on a shaky ground. Again, this is a fact. It's not, let me just make it bigger. It's not a question. It's not an if. That's a statement. It's just how it is. It's insane. It is unclear that under the new license, it is clear that under the new license, the thriving ecosystem built around the open source Terraform will dwindle and wither. As developers consider what tools to learn and what ecosystems to contribute to, and as companies consider what tools to use to manage their infrastructure, more and more they pick alternatives that are genuinely open source. Existing Terraform code bases will turn into outdated liabilities. Independent tooling will all but disappear, and the community will fracture and disappear. Okay, these are all valid concerns. I personally don't agree too much. It's a little bit of an exaggerated doom and gloom, point of view. I don't think this is what's going to happen to the Terraform ecosystem regardless. But again, these are based on valid concerns, and so there's some content into this. This sort of change also harms all similar open source projects. Every company and every developer now needs to think twice before adopting and investing in an open source project in case the creator suddenly decides to change the license. Imagine if the creators of Linux or Kubernetes suddenly switched to a non-open source license that only permitted non-competitive usage. Again, it's a fact. That's the whole point here, right? It's a very valid concern. We believe that the essential building blocks of the modern internet, such as Linux, Kubernetes, and Terraform, and I agree that Terraform, it's well placed into this list. Terraform is a core building block for modern infrastructure management. Need to be truly open source. And I agree with this. We cannot afford this kind of moves from HashiCorp. That's the whole point. And I wish, that HashiCorp was actually on board with this view of the world. It's just it's a competitive advantage for them. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I actually hope that at some point there will be some kind of they will all go into the same direction. So that is the only way to ensure that we are building our industry on top of solid and predictable underpinnings. And I agree with this. So our goal, ensure Terraform remains truly open source, always. And I agree with that. Our aim with this manifesto is to return Terraform to a fully open source license. BSL is not open source. And, again, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one thinking this. If you read it, we've been reading it through. It's not open source. Again, it's a fact. So this would mean moving Terraform back to MPL license or some other well-known, widely accepted open source license. Example, Apache license 2.0. Moreover, we want to be confident that Terraform will always remain open source, so you don't have to worry about another sudden license change, putting everything at risk. Our request to HashiCorp, switch Terraform back to an open source license. So this is interesting. OpenTF.org, they are demanding something to HashiCorp. It's, of course, now we know that this is just wishful thinking. HashiCorp would have never considered switching back, but they asked for it. So we ask HashiCorp to do the right thing by the community. Instead of going forward with the BSL license change, switch Terraform back to a truly open source license and commit to keeping it that way forever going forward. That way, instead of fracturing the community, we end up with a single, impartial, reliable home for Terraform, where the whole community can unite to keep building this amazing ecosystem. Again, it's nice. I wish this was feasible, but the problem again is that HashiCorp is not guided by community values, sort of. They might say that they are driven by community values, and I can, believe that to a certain degree. But the truth is that they are a publicly listed company. They are a VC-funded company. They're not profitable. They're burning money. So they need to ensure growth for their own shareholders, and that's right. And this is why, demanding from a company to sort of, put in second place their own priorities for a greater good into the community, it's just not how the world works. And this is why, the Linux Foundation and the CNCF, this is why they exist. I have many concerns on them. They are not, they have many things, that could be done better, but it's a matter of fact that they are the nexus of collaboration for this greater good on projects. And yeah, so our full black plan, and they are stating what they were, what they wanted to do and what they did actually. If HashiCorp is unwilling to switch Terraform back to an open source license, we propose to fork the legacy MPL license Terraform and maintain the fork in the foundation. This is similar to how Linux and Kubernetes are managed by foundations, the Linux Foundation and the CNCF, respectively, which are run by multiple companies, ensuring the tool stays truly open source and neutral, and not at the whim of any one company. In particular, we want to create a foundation for Terraform that is truly open source, community-driven, impartial, layered, and modular, with a programmer-friendly project structure to encourage building on top, enabling a new vibrant ecosystem of tools and integrations, backwards compatible, so that existing code can drive value for years to come. They have a Reddit, they have a Twitter. Let's read very quickly also the FAQs. Is Open Terraform going to be a foundation? We strongly prefer joining an existing reputable foundation over creating a new one. And that's what they did. to my knowledge, they applied for the Linux Foundation, and they expressed interest into joining the CNCF as well. Can anyone pledge? Yes, the pledge is open to both individuals and companies who care about the future of Terraform. Okay. I'm a regular Terraform user and I'm not competing with HashiCorp. Why should I care? How do you know you're not competing with HashiCorp? Again, this is the main concern, right? How do I know? You need to email them. How is this even sustainable? It's just, it's pretty crazy. That's not meant to be a redundant or generic question. The key issue with USL is that the wording is intentionally vague. And this is the main problem, because they are not defining exactly what is competing, what is production, considered production, what even embedded means. Hosting, it's pretty clear, but embedded, who decides? Again, they're right. Who decides? The answer to all this question is that in order to really know if you're a competitor, you have to reach out to HashiCorp. That's the point. So whether your usage is valid is not controlled by the terms and the license, but is instead entirely at the whim of HashiCorp. And they have a big point. That's the main thing. That's what they really dislike. I completely agree with them. It's just, it's just insane. They get to decide on a case-by-case basis who is and who isn't a competitor, and they can change their mind at any time. And this is right as well. It's correct. That's just the way it is. I mean, it's just, the more I read through this, the more HashiCorp is just very poorly, is playing a very poor role into this whole thing. This is a very shaky footing on which to build anything. They're right. At every company you ever work at in the future, before starting to use Terraform, the CTO will have to think about whether HashiCorp could possibly consider you as a competitor. They're right. Now and at any time in the future, the legal team at that company will have to wonder if they want to take the risk of following a USL license or if they should ban it due to all uncertainty. Every developer at the company will have to wonder if they want to contribute back to Terraform, given there is no certainty they'll be able to use their own work at a future job. In short, the PSL is a poison pill for the entire Terraform community. These are all facts. There's nothing I can say. It's just the way it is. Doesn't forking hurt the whole community? Why take such a breath action? Terraform was under MPL license for 9 years. This created an understanding, an implicit contract that Terraform is open source and you can use it for just about anything you want. And I disagree with this. This is not true. This is what many people wanted to think, me included, but they actually, having an open source license, unless you are in a foundation, having an open source license under a company umbrella, it's, you need to know that you are prone to license change. And there's no implicit contract. There's no such thing. And we all know that. And I don't think that anyone, if you truly believe that having an open source license under a company umbrella, it means that this company is committed to anything, you're wrong. Companies are not families. Companies are not foundations. They are for profit. They are there to pay wages and deliver shareholders' returns. That's it. That's what companies are for. And licenses, they need to serve this, these end goals. And we need all to be aware of that. There's not much to say about it. Based on that understanding, and this is again a flawed understanding, tens of thousands of developers adopted the tool and contributed back to it, and they're right. HashiCorp even had all contributors sign a CLA, which explicitly said, linked to the CLA in the Internet Archive, as HashiCorp has, of course, removed this wording. HashiCorp is committed to having a true free and open source software license for our non-commercial software. A CLA enables HashiCorp to safely commercialize our product while keeping a standard FOSS license with all the rights that the license grants to users. The ability to use the project in their own project or businesses, to the published modified source, or fork the project completely. It's very poor out of HashiCorp. There's nothing else I can say. It's just really bad. The move to business source license, which is not a free and open source license, broke the implicit contract. It's true. That was the branch action. Terraform would have never gotten the adoption it did, or all the contributions from the community, had it not been open source. Most of us would have never agreed to the CLA to contribute to the project if it was a BSL licensed. It's true. Again, they're stating something that is just a fact. Taking all those contributions and all that community trust and then changing it to business software license is a bait and switch. The Open Terraform manifesto is about undoing those changes. It's about going back to the way Terraform was for the first 9 years, as a truly open source tool that we can all trust, contribute, and use it as we wish. Let's read it. These are all very, oh my God, how long is this? Okay, no, it's not too long. Let's read it through. Another question. These are all very interesting and valid points. So didn't HashiCorp adopt the business source license to deter vendors who were using Terraform but not contributing back? In the blog post where HashiCorp announces the switch of license, and they justify the license switch as a response to the following. However, there are other vendors who take advantage of pure open source models and the community work on open source projects for their own commercial goals without providing material contributions back. We don't believe this is in the spirit of open source. This is inaccurate and misleading. First of all, many of the vendors affected by the change of the business source license made considerable contributions to the Terraform community. Here are just a handful of examples. Okay, and they are listing all the contributors and so on. So Terraform binaries, 1,700 contributors, massive, crazy. Azure provider has 1,300, crazy again. AWS provider, 2,800, that's crazy, really. Terraform models, there are 14,000 Terraform models in the registry, in the Terraform registry alone. The vast majority of these were not built by HashiCorp employees. And this is true again. Terraform tools, there are hundreds of tools such as Terragram, Terratest, TFSec, TFLint, InfraCost, and so on. And countless others were not built by HashiCorp. Learning resources, there are thousands of books, blog posts, courses, courses, such as Terraform Up and Running, blah, 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 and many others that were not created by HashiCorp employees. And they're right. And so much more. Tools like Terraform don't live in isolation. They are part of a larger ecosystem. The same is true for HashiCorp or Linux or Go or other major infrastructure tools. The ecosystem is a big part of why you pick these tools in the first place. That way, you'll be able to hire people who know the tools, find answers to your questions online, find libraries, and so on. Of course, no one is questioning HashiCorp contribution here. They created Terraform and led the project where it is today. They deserve full credit for that, but to not acknowledge the tens of thousands of developers, many of whom worked at a variety of vendors who contributed to the ecosystem and played a pivotal role in Terraform's success is misleading at best. Terraform didn't get to where it is today solely due to HashiCorp's involvement. The entire community, vendors included, so we got a point, and they are right. I mean, they have a point. It is true that, it's something that I also mentioned at the beginning of the video, right? It is crazy not to acknowledge that HashiCorp has been growing out of open source values. They were probably the biggest and most successful open source company. And it's kind of sad, to be honest, to see this change, this switch. What to say? And finally, let's keep on reading. There have been many contributions that were attempted, but HashiCorp rejected them because it made their paid offering less compelling. And this was probably the biggest red flag of all. Open governance is different from open source. Open pure source code. It's a source code available. And that's the key point. The classic one is the dozens of issues and PRs submitted about encrypting state, all of which Terraform has ignored. Storing state securely is a selling point of Terraform Cloud and Terraform Enterprise. Very bad. HashiCorp, and I actually agree with that point of view. Okay, I do realize that this is a point of view. This is just an opinion. It's not. I mean, someone might say that this is not the reason why these PRs and issues and contributions were not merged, but I actually think that they are. I actually think that this was all about keeping, the paid offering competitive. HashiCorp deserves to earn a return on their investment. What's wrong with that? When any company releases their tool as open source, the contract with the community is always the same. Anyone can use this code, but we, the creators, hold a privileged position of being at the epicenter of the ecosystem. Vendors then compete to offer the best solution, and the creators enjoy a unique competitive advantage. This is a very weak premise, okay? By itself, being at the center of a popular project is unfortunately not enough. It doesn't justify the investment. I personally have seen many, and by many I mean many projects, which were either extremely successful or even de facto standards, but they just failed because the open source project was so good that nobody really justified a paid version. And there are so many examples into this. And this is not right as well. So we, as the open source community, I believe that we need to question this. We need to find something better, a better model. So, yeah. We believe that HashiCorp should earn a return by leveraging its unique position in the Terraform ecosystem to build a better product, not by outright preventing others from competing in the first place. I agree, but I also see HashiCorp point. Okay, it's a very difficult topic. And then they just go on into, the signing of all these companies, who pledge support. So currently, there are 134 companies, 625 individuals, and so on. Again, as SIGAP, we plan to pledge to this as well, and we plan to provide support to this as well, and to, I would reach out to HashiCorp, but in case of a deny, we will be ready to switch to just an OpenTerraform, the OpenTerraform version. Okay, this was actually honestly great. I mean, I do agree with everything they wrote, and I do agree with this manifesto, which I did not. I mean, I didn't read it before, so I'm very happy that everything they wrote, it's something I deeply share. Let's get into the, so we went through all the core documents, and I think that, we read everything that was relevant. Now, there was a lot of debate around this, and there were a lot of different discussions. And so I think that, it's interesting to read them as well. And I think it's pretty interesting to see, So first of all, I want to highlight one thing. Here we have, if we go down into the supporters section and we see who signed this document, so there are literally hundreds of companies, hundreds of individuals. It's, these are all, it is true that these are all small to mid-sized companies, okay? Arnes, for example, is being one of the biggest, but all the others are a few people companies. This is a point. I don't think all of them are so small, but it's one of the big, big things that the critics of all this HashiCorp Open Terraform Foundation thing, they've been bringing up, and I want to read it, with you. So first of all, we have Cal State Tower. I guess, and I will assume that we all know him. He has been, a key reference into the whole infra automation space over the past 10 years. And he is obviously great. And he has been tweeting, the Terraform situation and the community response demonstrate the power of open source. And I deeply agree with this. He has been, let's read the whole thread. He is completely right. And this is exactly the power of open source. There is whoever has the governance that is starting to take decisions which are against the best interest of the community, and we fork and we keep going forward. It's great. The original maintainers made a decision a subset of that community doesn't agree with. They fork the project and will continue building in a foundation. And this is great, and I agree with him. HashiCorp has a strong brand, so I expect most end users will stick with Terraform. But now the community is split, and it's not as bad as you think. And, this is a great sentence, and I deeply agree with that. I will start to jump into my own conclusions, okay? And I completely agree with Kelsey. So it's not as bad as you think. Yes, there's going to be a foundation around Terraform. Yes, there's going to be a Terraform version which is maintained by a community. And this is, this is great because it will keep Terraform at the center of the ecosystem. It will keep the momentum on Terraform among community members. But at the same time, if you are a company and you decide to adopt Terraform as a technology, where are you going to go? Of course, to HashiCorp, because there's no one else. As we said, HashiCorp is still at the center of this technology. So I actually think that this fork is beneficial to HashiCorp as well. And I don't think there's going to be such a mess or such a doom and gloom, and nothing bad happening to the community. That's what I think as well. HTTP has many implementations, and that has led to more adoption, not less. Terraform has become the HTTP of configuration management. And he's right, exactly. Open Terraform will make it easier for HashiCorp to say no to Terraform contributions going forward, as there will be a viable alternative for the community to experiment. And it's true. Open Terraform is going to become the core of experimentation of new features, right? Keep in mind, we are only talking about the Terraform engine, not the infrastructure as code modules people write and use every day. The key thing to watch is what happens with content. As long as both Terraform and Open Terraform are able to use the same providers and execute the same code written by end users, the two communities will happily coexist. If not, that's where things get interesting. And again, Kelsey is a super smart guy. He has been highlighting the key thing. This is going to be extremely beneficial, in my opinion, it's just my point of view, okay? More adoption, again, Open Terraform is going to drive more adoption, not less. And this is going to benefit Terraform and HashiCorp as well. The key problem I see is that if the two forks start to diverge significantly, that's going to be extremely problematic. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Nobody knows, of course. Again, Kelsey, he has been, he's always like very positive and provide insightful reasoning around what happens into our ecosystem. But there was not a single voice. He was not the only voice. Vlad as well has been giving a very, let's say, a very opinionated thread where he touches what he thinks. And I think it's interesting to go through his own concern as well. So he starts soft. Open Terraform is disconnected from reality. That's his opinion. They don't understand Terraform. They don't understand users. They don't understand the ecosystem. And they don't even understand who's at the table or that there is a table. Let me explain. He's on fire. I mean, it's kind of funny. Let's see what are his reasons. I will anticipate. I already read all this this whole thread, and I don't agree with him at all. But it's interesting, right? So TLDR, Open Terraform is a failure, and you should not be taking it seriously at all. This will be a very long thread. I know, and I'm sorry for that, but you really need to see the whole story to understand how utterly pathetic this whole drama is. Okay, I don't think it's pathetic, honestly, and I don't think it's a drama. I think it's just, it's a licensing change impacting many. Of course, there is a lot of discussion, and there are consequences on this. There's no need to be this opinionated, but I mean, at least keep your open mind. But let's go on. On August 10th, HashiCorp, the company behind blah, blah, changed license from open source MPL to source available, but only some can use products in production. Fuck you, BUSL 1.1. All of HashiCorp products were affected, but Terraform is huge, and Open Terraform is focusing on Terraform, so we'll also focus on that here. We won't discuss why HashiCorp changed their license, what dumb things HashiCorp did or still does, or anything like that. When HashiCorp announced the license change, there was drama, and after a little while, Open Terraform was posted as a manifesto. The manifesto was pretty much, HashiCorp, please make Terraform open source again, because it's awesome. We don't want to be forced to fork it. OpenTF really looked legitimate. Sure, the manifesto was preachy as heck. Sure, the name was a bit on the nose. Sure, it was very early. Whatever. It was looking very legit. Open Terraform got even more legit with support from key players in the Terraform community, Grantwork and CloudPosser, critical consulting companies advancing Terraform pledge support, Spacelift pledge support. Open Terraform got even more legit. Somebody that wasn't even in the Terraform community joined. Oxide Compute Company, a server hardware company that was using Terraform in their product, pledge support. This meant outside traction, and that was, in my view, a game changer. I, like the optimistic dumbass that I am, tweeted that. I genuinely believe that Open Terraform was legitimate and serious. And then things took a turn for the worse. Open Terraform got no other traction or support. And I'm not really sure what he mentioned, what he mean by that. They have like 35 companies who signed. This is just not true. If you were looking at the pledges on the manifesto, there was a flurry of support coming in, but that was all bogus. Open Terraform got spammed with fake support. Every single proof of concept Terraform Cloud startup pledge support. Random 2 people consulting companies pledge support. Random individuals pledge support. Random first-year college students pledge support. Okay, he is mentioning these things as bad things, but they're not bad at all. I mean, it had wide support from different individuals, companies with different interests. That's what open source is. You don't have to be the big corporation to pledge support. And it doesn't mean that individuals or smaller companies, they will be less effective at maintaining a project. Not at all. This is a flawed argument, in my opinion. Open Terraform had very little support that was real. Of course, everybody added their names to a list. It's free marketing without any real commitment. And again, I kind of disagree. Yes, it's free marketing, but what kind of marketing? It's not going to bring you really anywhere far. So it's a pretty weak comment, in my opinion. Sign here to save the starving orphans is very different from every evening spent 3 hours cooking for orphans, So his main point is that the people who pledge support are not actually ready to provide support to the project. And this is a valid concern. I mean, beyond the words, you need to see who's going to work on the Terraform fork, who's going to maintain it. It's a valid concern. There were only a handful of legitimate supporters, Grantwork, Spacelift, and EVN, Zero, and Scala. That's it. Sure, other companies and individuals pledged something, but that was cheap marketing or just a show of initiative. The 4 companies above pledged actual resources. Okay. Groundwork is 25% of legitimate supporters. They are a consulting company. They started with Terraform Consulting. They built open source tooling around Terraform, paid Terraform templates, support, and more. They also pledge very abstract support. The other 75% of legitimate supporters are Terraform Cloud competitors. I'm not holding it against them, but they are the tiny percentage of people impacted by license change. They would have to pay licensing fees. Debatable. Let's not get into the legal stuff here. Well, Vlad, the legal stuff here, it's the whole point. It's all there, right? So the key problem, as they write into the manifesto, is that the legal stuff, as you mentioned, it's not clear. And it's not clear who is actually the competitors, who they are, right? And what HashiCorp. So they wrote it extremely well into the manifesto. And I agree with them. And I don't agree with you. So, it's not just a few companies which are competing with HashiCorp. They are hurted by this life, impacted directly by this change, and so they decide whatever. It's not the case. We, SIGAP, are not into that handful of companies, as you say, but we still might be impacted. And everything they write into the manifesto about any adopter thinking carefully, strategically, if Terraform is the right choice, it's very valid. So this whole argument over here that you just mentioned, I don't agree with it. I think it's flawed. What you say, it's just not complete, not at all. That 75% of legitimate supporters aren't even that legitimate. Spaceleaf, blah, 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 are startups, small and early companies, hungry and determined, yes, but definitely not stable, mature, or with a plethora of services at their disposal. You're right, there is a point, but my recommendation is to not underestimate early companies. They can surprise you. That's it. Open Terraform, one small consulting company, plus 3 small companies that would have to pay licensing fees, a bunch of empty shows of support from random people. I don't agree with this. I simply don't agree with this. You are leaving out individual contributors. You are leaving out probably many other companies. It's a fact. It's what you're saying is not right. It's false. And so I don't agree with you. The community did not rally behind OpenTF. The community did not in any way, shape, or form show support for OpenTF. The community ignored OpenTerraform or passively watched the drama. OpenTerraform sure manipulated public perception, though. OpenTerraform did great PR and marketing, and in my view, started to manipulate people. OpenTerraform bragged to journalists about their spammy and fake numbers. The companies behind OpenTerraform posted preachy and grandiose blog posts, and everybody ate that shit up. As an insight, tech journalism is broken. Without any due diligence or review, an overwhelming majority of journalists stupidly repeat the over 100 companies and more than 350 individuals line they got fed. What the fuck? You all couldn't even look at the list and click on some links? Okay, let's do that. I mean, I'm just very curious. Why is he saying that these are not legitimate? I don't agree with him. Let's go into, the end. There we go. So Harness, I guess we know them. Groundwork, we know them. Spacelift and Scalar, Digger, Doppler, Gem, Agile, Massdriver, Covery, Rivet, Terramate, Terrateam, Rifa, Argonaut, Finished Terra, Outcloud, 35 up. That's just, Oxide, Coherence, Hestio. I'm just clicking some random things, okay? I don't know. I'm just curious to see who are these companies, and I'm just curious to see, if these are legitimate companies or not. Oh, we have a blocked malware. That's great. Venture guides, mixed panel. I guess we all know them. I mean, I've opened a few, right? So Harness, they are pretty well known. So little doubt about it. Groundwork, again, we know them. Spacefleet, I personally don't know them. I'm actually interested to see who they are. Sophisticated CI/CD platform for Terraform, CloudFormation, Pulumi, Kubernetes, and Ansible. I mean, okay. How many people work there? Let's see. I'm just curious. Let's see. 88 employees. I mean, these are starting to be pretty interesting numbers. They are not that small startups, my friend. So that's something, you know, that we need to acknowledge. Let me check. And Zero, I don't know them as well. So I'm just curious to see. People. 48 employees. Again, these are not two-people companies. Scalar, I don't know them again. Let's see. Uh, 45 employees. Digger, open source GitOps for Terraform. Again, these are all impacted companies, of course. I mean, it's normal. Anyway, so his first key point is that there is no real traction behind the Open Terraform initiative, sort of. And I disagree with it. I deeply disagree with him. I don't think this is right. I don't think this is true. I think that he's just making shit up. And I think that there are many companies which are, maybe they're not huge companies, they're not into the hundreds of employees, but still are companies who can contribute. And I think that this is a very solid foundation for starting a new project within the, within neutral hands. So let's go back to reading the article, the tweets. Open Terraform could have tried to gather more support. We now know they did not. Nobody else that mattered joined. Zero other big players in the Terraform ecosystem, zero cloud providers, even small ones, zero serious companies. So I don't know on which basis he says that all the companies who pledge support are not serious. I argue that he is being just superficial on this. I also do not expect cloud providers to pledge any kind of support. They just don't care. They have their own configuration management languages. They are not used to play big into the open source ecosystem. I don't see how AWS could care about preferring HashiCorp over Open Terraform or the other way around at this stage. It's too early. They will commit once they see who is going to win. That's normal. And so other big players in the Terraform ecosystem, maybe I'm too ignorant. I don't know who they might even be. And I would love Vlad to tell us. On August 18th, Open Terraform posted an update. HashiCorp must answer them by August 25th. Yes, Open Terraform was demanding that HashiCorp answer them and change Terraform license back to open source by August 25th. Yes, the barely any support Open Terraform was now demanding things. So again, this is I don't know. I don't like his attitude. I don't like what he's writing. I mean, why being so passive aggressive? Demanding something in standard legal terms. Whenever you ask something regarding a license or regarding a violation or regarding anything, you demand things because you need to establish a cut point, a point where after which you just recognize it is what it is, and you just move forward with your own decisions. That's just a normal way of doing business. So I'm not sure why he's being so passive aggressive. I just don't agree with him. Open Terraform demand show that they have no idea how this all works. I don't know what he means. I mean, it seems to me the other way around. It seems to me that he doesn't know how these things work. If you're in a fight with somebody and generally want to resolve the conflict, you don't yell and scream in the streets. You take a breather and then discuss the problem in private. It's the same for business. No, it's not. It's not. Businesses are driven, they are not a fight in the street. That's maybe what he is used to, but that's not how business works. So HashiCorp is a huge, thousands of employees company right now with, again, listed on public markets with a plethora of legals, teams working for them. How do you think they could be engaged by an unorganized bunch as a community? So it's either HashiCorp being receptive on the requests, or there is no discussion. So I'm not sure what he means here. Open Terraform could have demanded things nicely. Open Terraform could have reached out to HashiCorp to figure out something mutually beneficial. How? Mate, how? How can you even do that? Open Terraform could have done so many other things. What? What other things? I just don't understand, really. I don't know. If he thinks that in business you just, oh, I'm writing you an email and please be nice, I'm being nice. I expect you to be nice. Please get back to me by, and let's sort this out together. That's not how it works. I'm sorry, mate. That's not how business works. That's not how legal teams work. And this is whole legal team thing. Let me just fix my screen. At this point, I realized Open Terraform was complete bullshit. And I disagree with him. How? I don't know. I don't agree with him. I was hoping Open Terraform would realize how silly this is and that they would regroup and that the whole drama would die down. So he only tweeted a meme and never mind. The drama did not die down, as you can see. Okay. I tried to ignore this, hoping it would go away. It did not. In the following days, Open Terraform continued their marketing and PR efforts by spreading bullshit. They also made it very clear how out of their depth they are. Let me explain what I mean. Okay, let's read on. Open Terraform does not understand how open source works. They assume Terraform is just a GitHub repository and that's it. They could not be farther from the truth, and it looked great when they posted graph commits that showed just 5 HashiCorp engineers making changes. Okay, this is all like bullshit. Okay, I'm not going on because we are beyond 2 hours. My point is that I honestly think that Open Terraform has a point, and they should definitely go forward. I have one big concern about Open Terraform, and I will show you which one it is actually. Let's go through their website. Let's see. I want to show you because this is what I'm just like, what the fuck? Okay. If we go to the GitHub page, hopefully it's from here. No, it's not here. Where is the GitHub page? Let's check GitHub. Let's go on the GitHub page. This is my main issue. There's nothing. So there is the manifesto. That's great. As Vlad was saying, it's marketing. It's absolutely fantastic. Ton of stars, ton of support. That's great. There is a roadmap which has nothing in it right now. There's nothing. And then there is brand artifacts like the logo. So, as an open call to the Open Terraform people, which I would love to know who they are actually. Who has the governance? Who owns this account? I don't know. And that's something I would like to know straight away. I would like to know who controls the website, and I would like to, it's probably the Telegram people, who tweet in the name of the Open Terraform project. That's something I would like to know. They don't say it. I think that they should be very transparent into this. And again, what is the code? Why they didn't publish the fork yet? They have to fork the code and start to open source it. Where is the code? So I'm just calling, the whole Open Terraform thing. First of all, join the Linux Foundation. If you didn't yet, I think that they did, but I'm not sure. Join the CNCF, at least start that conversation. Let's see if it makes sense. Publish the code. Start to act as if you are an open source project and start to build in public. Be open about and be transparent about the governance of the project. Otherwise, there is no point. Otherwise, I completely agree with with all the critics. I completely agree with the people saying, it smells bad. I want to be wrong. I want Open Terraform to go forward. I want this foundation to succeed. I want to have an open alternative to Terraform because it is clear that Terraform is not anymore into the open source business. I want all this stuff, and I'm ready. In SIGAP we are about 50 people. We are ready to pledge some people to work on this. I need to see. We can pledge some resources to this, but where is the code? I want to see how we are going to spend our money, right? So all the critics, they also have a point. And I guess that's all. We are beyond the 2 hours. I'm not sure if there is anyone still with me. Probably not, but I'm very happy that we have, we have been able to do this. This is the very first learning in public. I'm happy that I managed to read all the documents that I wanted to read, to dive deeper a little bit into what was the whole change about. And I hope that whoever is going to watch this is going to find it useful. I'm obviously available for any question. You can reach out to me on Twitter. I'm Jane Ardiello. That's the easiest way to reach out to me. Thank you all, and I'm looking forward to the next session, learning something new. I'm going to try to be very consistent with this, so kind of on a weekly basis, I will learn a different topic. So thank you all, and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.